This is going to be a little bit of a riff session, so if you don't like a more casual format, it's not for you. Also, my title is Ukraine Update from the Ground. I'm not on the ground in Ukraine, obviously. And so all I have are direct contacts in Ukraine. So it's secondary information you're receiving. But let me give you a sense of the impact of what's going on to the average citizen. If you've ever had the privilege of traveling over there, one of the things that you'll be able to tell is that Ukrainian or Slavic men in general tend to be stoic. They don't tend to show their feelings. They tend to just kind of have a blank, expressionless face. Like you don't know exactly, and unless they crack a smile, that they're telling a joke, because their humor tends to be dry. I mean, some of them are boisterous and more outgoing in that way, like Americans. But two things. I was once meeting somebody, and I went. They said something to me in Russian, and I said, "Well, I'm an American," and she said, "Well, I could tell." And I was dressed at that point. I was younger. I didn't have a beard. Most of the time I've met Slavic men in that country, they tend to be clean shaven, and I was dressed somewhat Ukrainian, and I said, "How could you tell?" And she said, "Because you smiled." And that seems to be kind of the general mindset there, is that the men of Ukraine and Slavic men in general tend to be rather stoic. But it doesn't mean they can't have fun, they can't laugh. But with that said, I have a friend who's on the ground in Ukraine right now. His name is Andre. I'm not going to share any more details about him, but I will put a link to his ministry in this video after it's done processing. Look in the description section. So Andre is one of those guys, very stoic, dry sense of humor, can speak English very well, enough to have very significant conversations with him, philosophical conversations. So he has a good command of the English language. So I got a chance to know him quite well in the time that we were in Ukraine. We actually stayed in his house, which was a small apartment in Kyiv. And he runs a ministry that has several facets to it. One of which is driving around adoptive families in Ukraine, wherever you need to go, to get to court, to get to different cities to visit with your orphans. So that's one of the things he does. He also runs a soccer ministry for orphans in Ukraine, give them some outlets. Anyway, he posted a video the other night. What he's doing right now is, after he got his family out of Kyiv, he's been making incursions back into Kyiv with his car to pick up people that are stranded there. So he's going into the war zone, picking up people, bringing them towards the Poland border where his family is, and he can't leave because he's a man under the age of 60. This normally very stoic guy, who it didn't seem like anything would really faze him. In the video, I watched it last night, not too long before I went to bed, which was a mistake. Because when I got done watching the video, I turned to my wife and I said, "I feel powerless." And we both had the same agreement after we watched the video. It shows my friend Andre walking into a city. You can hear distant gunfire explosions, and his eyes are bloodshot. His eyes are filled with tears, and his voice sounds shaky. And that told me enough right then and there in that video, something about what's going on the ground for these people. Because literally, and I'm not using this as a joke, this is not meant to be a pun, he is shell-shocked. And this normally stoic, lion-hearted of a guy, you could tell he's about at his wit's end. And of course, he's not probably operating on very much sleep, because he's like going back and forth. And I know he's probably dealing with I'm not fighting, feeling kind of, guilty about that. He's not picking up a gun, but he's probably doing more help to Ukrainians with what he's doing than just picking up a gun in Kiev and facing, possible death without, really doing anything, as because he's not a trained soldier. He's rescuing people. So anyway, I'm going to put a link after this video is done processing to Andre's ministry because he needs gas money. I forgot to look up the gas price over in Ukraine right now, but in general, like when we were adopting, generally Ukrainians were paying about double what we pay here in America already. And so, and they buy gas by the liter. So if you look up or European gas prices, usually it's, whatever their currency per liter. So you do the calculations. It was they're like 3.5 to 3 2/3 liters per gallon, and that'll give you a rough idea of what they're paying right now. So we're seeing prices spike here in America. I'm close to a gas station, looking over at the pump. They make, on average, this is the average Ukrainian, what they make is about $450 per month if you were to convert their currency. $450 per month average salary per Ukrainian, adult Ukrainian. So double the gas prices plus that. You can imagine how hard it is. So he needs money for gas and, what little he needs to support his family of a wife and 2 young children. So I'll link that. There's another ministry I want to tell you about. Our good friends, the Kogans. Not going to tell you where they're from, but anyway, they're involved in a ministry that helps orphans over in Ukraine. And right now, their oldest daughter, who's good friends with one of my daughters, is in Poland helping watch over multiple hundreds of orphans. It's so bad that they have some unsupervised groups, but at least they're keeping them contained. And we have a bunch of teenagers from not good circumstances, a lot of systematic abuse, sexual abuse that goes on in some of these orphanages over there, sometimes from the workers. I'm doing a little bit of a side. One of the orphanages that we adopted from, the director of the orphanage, whom we had met when we were there 11 years ago, 12 years ago now, he actually got arrested because he was abusing children sexually. So anyway, so now all these teenage boys and girls together in this humongous group that sometimes they can't fully supervise because they don't have enough workers. They could use money, so they can send more people over there, support them while they're watching these kids. But praise God, there's a number of buses that have been able to shuttle orphans out. Also, another prayer request, Ismail. It's a smallish city, that's located in the southern aspect of Ukraine. It's very much cut off in a way from the rest of Ukraine. It's right next to the Dnieper River. It's very close to Moldova, which is pro-Russian. We had to travel through Moldova to get to there. You could go land route through Ukraine, but you'd have to circumvent a large swath of geography to get there. Yeah, so anyway, we had contact with a friend yesterday who said that it's quiet in Ismail, but they know it's coming. And the baby orphanage where we adopted 4 out of 6 of our kids is there. And that's the one where the director got fired and arrested. So anyway, those are, a lot of those kids are high risk. You have kids with Down syndrome. You have kids with very disabling physical and mental issues. Our son Joshua was one of them that came out of there, who has significant cognitive and physical issues. You can't, unless you live it, you can't understand the conditions. And this is one of the better orphanages. It is one of the better orphanages in Ukraine. But what's happening is you get cut off of supplies, and you get these Ukrainians who are already there's not enough staffing at these buildings, who may decide, I'm getting out of here. And now you've got kids left with even less supervision, with less help. And some of these kids are so dependent. I mean, Josh was completely dependent. They will, in very short order, die. There's some orphanages where you have orphans who are so chronically neglected that they're practically nothing. They're practically wasted away. We have contacts with people who just adopted a 16-year-old boy. When they brought him home from Ukraine, he weighed 17 pounds. He's a teenager boy. He weighs 17 pounds. He's the size of an infant. Fortunately, they got him to the States. The hospital there was able to get him back in shape. I'm going to have to go soon. So anyway, that's the kind of situation that's going on in some of these towns. Is you've got orphanages, or even older people. Their nursing homes are not. You think our nursing homes are bad? Their nursing homes aren't necessarily bad. For one thing, I think they have a lot more respect for elders there than we have here in America. But they just don't have the equipment. And I've seen pictures of people that spend a lot of time in their beds over there. That happens here in America too, but you're gonna have the same situation there. You're gonna have people neglected, these elders that are totally defenseless, and they're going to end up perishing, probably from various forms of neglect over there. So, meanwhile, over in the United States, we have a president who is, I don't know if you listened to his State of the Union. Of course, he addressed Ukraine, but he's a paper tiger. He's not. I mean, we're sending some stuff over to them, but we're not doing anything significant for them. And he has a policy in place that's basically funding the war for Russia against Ukraine, with the whole keeping their pipeline feed to the United States open by paying them some estimates at least $30 million per day, or it might have been more. It was 30 million barrels per day. I can't remember what the statistic was, but it was an incredible sum of money we're giving Russia every single day for the primary source of their income. The primary source of their income. We're getting that. So anyway, I'm done riffing. But feel free to comment. I like I said, I will link in the description of this video information on how you give to Andre's ministry and to this ministry that's helping orphans. If you want somebody, if you're not sure who to give to, I wouldn't go with like you see these advertisements out right now. These are the top 10 places to give if you want to help Ukraine. Don't trust that. You might even know somebody that has contacts over there that knows true needs. Go with your primary sources or people that have contacts with people that are on the ground that know what they need. But Andre definitely needs gas money. He's getting, I don't know how many he's gotten out, but he's got quite a few orphans and young mothers out. And then this other ministry has got, I think it was up to 700 orphans out. That's real work. And so don't be like my wife and I last night looking at each other going, I feel powerless. Because there are things we can do. And the more people that know the little bit that we can do is helpful. But meanwhile, we're all facing back home increasingly high costs of everything because of our stupid energy policies implemented by this president. If we had had the energy independence under the Trump administration now, do you think our gas prices would be anywhere near where they're at? Would we have inflation anywhere near where we're at? Would we have such supply chain issues as we have now? Probably not. And would that put us in a place where we'd be better able to help? Oh, and would there be a war going on in Ukraine? Because what did Trump basically blatantly tell Putin? He said, basically, by the way, if you invade Ukraine, I will bomb Moscow. We need that kind of strength. Trump was flawed, hugely flawed. I didn't vote for him the first time around. I thought there were better candidates. I went third party on the first election. But thank God Hillary didn't get in. Looking back in retrospect, that was a foolish thing to do. Because, the platform, is significantly better in terms of national security, in terms of energy, in terms of jobs, in my estimation. And of course, the whole pro life issue on a Republican platform. But then Trump exceeded my expectations, which were pretty low. And I really think with a President Trump in 2022, we wouldn't be facing this mess. But anyway, I digress. Hope you're doing well. Love your family. We don't know, what our future holds in America. We're probably safer than a mostly landlocked country like Ukraine. We have two relative friendly countries on either side, although I would argue both are more antagonistic than most people believe. But we're pretty safe in that regard, unlike Ukraine, with a humongous bully on one side and not so friendly countries on a couple other parts of it. Anyway, John Adamson with Seeking Light.